Natural ant control. Yeah, welcome back to Gardens, the Untold Story. Ken Somerville, my co-host and good friend Andy Lopez, the Invisible Gardener, and we've been going through Andy's book, Don't Panic, It's Organic. And Andy, you put a second book into this one called Dances with Ants, and this is the first chapter on that back half of your book. So Andy, take it away. Why are we partying with the ants?
Well, I started. Can you hear me okay? If the volume is too low, I can't hear myself. I love hearing my voice. I should get a headphone on. Good morning, silly. Morning, everybody. So I started doing that. The first thing I started doing business with was ant control. When I was a kid, 6th grade, people would say, "What are you doing for ants?" Because they found out from my parents and other people that I was doing something rather unique to control ants. Well, at my early youth there, I didn't have any problem with killing them. What I would say is I irritated the heck out of them. I learned how to communicate with them, to get their attention. And so by the 9th grade, I had quite a lot. That was my main primary thing that I did was ant treatments. Even when I came here to California, especially in California, I didn't think I was having too much of an ant problem in Florida. I think the soil, everything's so healthy there, it's kind of hard to screw it up. Over here,
it's not ants, it's alligators down there, isn't it? Crocodiles.
I was reading about the Florida Everglades. How the water level, the fresh water is disappearing and the seawater is coming in, and they have giant crocodiles and giant boa constrictors.
Boa constrictors, yeah.
Right,
and there's
massive big guys living in the
Lily was talking about a new alligator or crocodile species that got loose into the Everglades down there, and they have a whole new species of crocodile coming out that's really aggressive and is a man eater, like really bad.
What they were talking about, right? That's probably what they were talking about. They decided to not do the research. They were going down to the caves and stuff like that. So we're not going in there. We have to get a little more backup because these things are like 49 crocodiles, big guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I started doing ant treatments in the beginning first, and so my idea was to I like the ants. I actually bought an ant colony.
Okay, yeah. I remember those when I was a kid. That was a big thing.
It's a little mirror. It's like a little, like a fishbowl, but skinny. And you see right. And so what I did was I cut a hole. I remember in my parents' place, I cut a hole in the wall and had the ant colony into the wall. The ants were coming from the outside to feed and go back out. And that's how I control the ants. I started feeding them right off the bat because I figured, how do you get attention from ants? How do you get their attention? 2 ways. You either start killing them, which you don't want to do because you don't want to fight 1 billion ants, or you get their attention by feeding them. They will respond to that. I felt much better giving ants food than to try to kill them. Because the only reason why I would kill them was to get their attention. Because I would try to have an audience with the queen ants. I would talk to the lady. Because, the ants are a female-run organization. All that the males do is they have sex once a year. That's it. You see them in the bar. Did you get it? I didn't get it. And they die, And they swarm. They fly up. They do their swarm thing too. They look like. I did a whole show once on. Can you tell the difference between ants and termites? Because they look identical when they're a certain stage of their development, except that the wings are slightly different. The way the structure of the wings stand. That's the only way you can tell. So I started doing. So I basically, and I did that in my home. I decided to. So I started using Dr. Bronner's soap. This is not a commercial with Dr. Bronner's, but Dr. Bronner's, they make a really good soap. I knew that Dr. Bronner, I got to meet him, and I were friends, and one of my books was called Natural Pest Control Alternatives to Chemicals for the Home and Garden. In it, I had over 101 ways how to use Dr. Bronner's soap. And Yeah, yeah. This soap is really cool because essentially it's essential oils of herbs. So they have your peppermint, spearmint, eucalyptus. They have almonds. They have a tea tree oil. Um,
Mhm.
I'm missing a few rose one, and these are basically essential oils, but made into a soap. It's a
Yeah.
Castile natural Castile soap, and I liked it. I like it for many, and I still use it to this day. Except that they kind of changed it. The kids added the hemp to it, and it made it so that it doesn't mix well with other things. Because normally, what I would do is as a wetting agent. So when I
Yeah.
did my sprayer, I would
What
do like
people would call a surfactant.
right. I take a little bit of the soap, just a little bit, in 100 gallons, and I liked it because it was a wetting agent. Plus, it also smelled like that herb, whatever it was. So
Yeah.
a double mix, double thing and that was the biology of the herb. See that you could smell, whether it be rosemary or lavender. They have that lavender, of course, and so I would spray it. But when they changed it over, hey, you guys, I'm talking to you. Yeah, Dr. Bronner's kids. I don't know his name. Their names now. The children have taken over it. But at one level, it's a good idea to add hemp oil to it, right? At
Mhm.
another level, it screws up your ability to mix it with other things. I couldn't add to my spray; it would gunk up, so I can't use it. But I can use it in the house. I can just do it straight, a little bit of water sprayed. You know, it's fine. But the oil just mixes up. But anyway, there are lots of different types of natural Castile soaps on the market you can buy. So I started doing the this is how you can control the ants. You tell them the way, so they have pheromones that they mark their trails. That's how they know this way to Andy's house for food, right? Or this is where the kitchen is. This is where the dog food is. What's our favorite relative? Oh dear, no, there you go, aunt. She's back. Oh God. So I started to redirect the ants. So
Yeah.
I call it dance things. So I started redirecting them. I said, okay, uh, this is how I'll teach you, because I would start to spray in the house with whatever type of soap I was using, whether it be Castile soap. There was a couple one. There's one called Thieves Oil, young, and they
Yeah.
sell this really cool Thieves Oil, which is basically an herbal mixture as well. There's a whole bunch of companies out there that do lots of different types of herbal mixtures. Plus, you can make your own herbal tea that you can spray. I
Mhm.
just finished doing yesterday. I got some lemongrass and garlic from the
Yeah.
garlic from the garden. I boiled it together, let it simmer. I filtered it out, screened it out, poured it into my little pump, and I sprayed the garden with it. I added my biology to it, and it works. If I can't add the Dr. Bronner soap to that mixture because it gooks up the sprayer, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I started doing that early on, and then in the early '70s, I made what I call ant-cafes. So basically, what I would do is I'm going to feed the ants, and so I'm going to feed them, but I don't want the bees and everything else to come and do this. It's just for the ants. And the
Right.
reason for that is that one of the things that I found out is that unfortunately, in my youth, I realized that if I killed the ants, they would say, "Well, we're not going to go over there, right? We're not going to go over there and do some." The queen says, "I send all you troops out there," and some of them came back. One of the things I
Right.
learned about ants is ants have two stomachs: one that they eat right away, the other one that they take the food back to the colony. So anything you give to one ant, they'll take it back to the colony, and the whole colony will get it. And so in my youth, I would say, okay, well, we have to reduce the size of the colony because it takes a while to get that under control. In my youth, I wasn't so much as keyed into now the biology of the soil as I was to find out what the cause was. Why were the ants going? Why are the ants doing all this? Why are they acting this way? And I realized that they're basically telling me that something's wrong, and this is their job to fix it.
Yeah.
And I still didn't quite get the reason why it was wrong, other than the fact that something was going on in the soil and the plants that ants reacted to. It's like they had a refractometer. They could see the Brix level are low on that plant and go, wow, it's food time. That was part of my process of understanding why bugs and diseases attack plants in the first place. And so throughout the process of me learning about this, I realized it's all about it's all about trace minerals, right? It's all about how they in the pants. Well, I missed that. Wait, go back up to the last joke. What makes an aardvark jumpy? Ants in the pants.
We are talking about ants, and Lily actually was her comment was, what got me was seeing red ants marching across my driveway in a wave. Those little critters bite. I stayed well clear of them. And so, yeah, I can see that aardvark bouncing around a bit at red ants in his pants.
Oh yeah. They have these. Let's see, what's the name of it? They're African warrior ants. They're like 10 times the size of the normal ants, and they're spreading out. Ants have the world's largest colony. Sometimes they spread for miles and miles and miles and miles.
Do you remember the movie they did on the killer ants?
Yeah,
I remember that.
With big giant,
decades ago.
There were big giant ants, and they were fighting them, and they eventually they just torched everything. They destroyed everything. You know what happened at the end of the show?
The ants got them.
The ants came back, and it's like, no, we're still here. So I'm not. When I watched that show, I realized also you're not going to win this battle. There has to be a cooperative venture. You have to acknowledge that the ants are there for a reason, and you have to acknowledge that you have to change the reason. You have to
fix the soil so they're not needed in that area. They can move somewhere else. Now, you were saying you were feeding them. What do you feed ants, Andy? And like you were saying, you didn't want to have the bees and other creatures eating it. So what was your mix?
Well, see, so ants go for anything with honey or sugar in it. Whatever it is sugar based. You know, that's their thing. So because the ants will herd aphids and other creatures for nectar, and nectar is basically sugar based.
Yeah.
So I will get the organic honey, and put some honey in the liquid and let them drink that. And usually I found this. A couple of things would happen. The ants will go in there, and I would feed them, and then with using the soap in the house, the ants will stay away from those areas because most people don't care if the ants are outside. This is coming in my house, and I don't want them to do that. So that worked for a while, as long as I was also paying attention to what's going on, because this is like getting them under control a little bit, right? You go, okay, you come over here and eat this, and stay out of there. But the ants are still overflowing on the property, doing whatever it is that they're doing, right? You know what I mean? Because there's a reason why they're doing this. And like I told you once, I told everybody here once before, when I think my very first customer had 2 trees. I told you about the 2 trees.
Yeah. One was wet and one was dry.
Yeah, and guess which is the one who was in trouble? Guess which one?
The wet one, especially with city water.
Yeah, right. So and even too much water, even if you had a filter and you overwater, you're going to have that problem, because the soil biology is not a water-based creatures. They need oxygen. They need things to dry out. A certain level of water, that's it. Too much water, they're underwater. That stops the process, right? And so what that does is that it interferes with the way the soil works, and the soil works by transferring the minerals from the main army that puts it together to the army that's going to feed the plants with it.
Yeah.
Transfers to them, and then they transfer it to the plants, and the plants get the food and nutrients and transmitters they need, which solves the problem, because then if their Brix level are high or their trace minerals are high, the ants go, we're going to go over there.
Yeah.
Right. We know it could attack this plant. And if the soil, because the soil itself, a healthy soil will control the ants. I tell people, you don't have an ant problem, you have a soil problem, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a healthy living soil that has 1 billion trillion more biology than there are stars in the sky, the ants have no defense against that. They will it doesn't destroy them, but it keeps them from getting infestation, right?
Well, and I think it also helps if with your healthy soil helps bring the predators that prey on the ants. And if you've got the it's like having the a lion and the elk, as long as there's a balance there, everything's good. When we got too many ants, well, you got to have more predators, and all of a sudden the ants move away. Go, I'm not staying here, man. I'm going on vacation to Mexico.
Yeah, and the soil biology is so cool because I didn't start spraying soil biology for ants until much later on in my life. I go, why am I spraying soap? Why am I spraying? Because I fell for it. Organic gardening would say, magazine, okay, you can get some neem oil, you can get some this kind of oil, all natural horticultural oil. These are all organic, natural things that you should learn to spray.
Yeah.
And so as I got better at this, I realized, well, what really is needed is more biology. Why don't I just spray them that? And that's what works, because the biology gets onto the ant's body. They get the little microbe gets into their body. Oh, what a world! It's like no. It breaks down the way that they. I don't know what you call it, but on the surface of their skin, they have a layer that keeps the moisture in their body, right?
I think it's the chitinous shell that protects them.
Right, there's a shell there that protects them. Right, you break down that shell, and they're done. They will not survive. And so so I started spraying the biology, and I think when I came to California is when I started doing more of that. Even though I was actually spraying compost tea already, so that's one form of spraying biology, making compost tea. So in Florida, I was doing compost tea and spraying that. So I was spraying the biology then. But see, I wasn't even calling it compost biology. I was calling it compost tea. It's
all the thing is, you weren't wrong. It's made from a compost. It's full of biology, and that's where people they need to really take that next step to understand that everything that they're doing is based on improving their biology, whether it's biodynamic, Korean natural farming, whatever the methodology, it all comes down to adding more biology into your soil structure and feeding that biology, keeping it going and improving it.
Mother Nature is constantly adding biology. It's never
from
like,
the air.
I'm not going to do it once a year. I'm not going to do it. No, it's like all the time. All the time. It's in the air. It's everything we breathe. The earth is doing its biology thing. And what I realized too is that us human beings have sort of screwed it up a little bit because the biology is hard it's hard to survive if you have nuclear radiation. It's hard to survive if you have forever plastics. It's hard to survive if you have toxins everywhere, which kills the biology left and right? So so those things, we're reaching a point where if you keep doing that, it's going to be a sterile planet. And by sterile planet, I mean forget about us humans and other living things, because we all need this biology. We don't understand. Well, okay, we're going to be living in a space capsule, right? Like in a spaceship. You don't need the biology in a spaceship, right? Even though if they're really good, they'll have a garden, right?
Well, actually, Andy, even in a spaceship, you need the biology because that's what's building your personal cells.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that biology, your cells aren't being built, so you're not going to be able to be on the spaceship at all. It's
right. So that's why you have a garden. That's why they end up having a garden, because they can grow stuff that you eat, because you have to eat biology. You have to eat the biology in order for you to process the biology. You can't be taking pills or some other chemical food source. That's what the astronauts, NASA is learning now. We had better learn how to grow things up there because you cannot function up there if you don't have the biology. You can have this stuff you eat, but your stomach's going to eventually die on you, and then you're going to get sick and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I learned really fast when I started doing, like in the 6th grade, I had maybe 20, 30 customers at one time. And I wasn't so much telling people that I was spraying biology. I was just doing my organic gardening thing, right? Getting better at
getting rid of their ants,
Yeah, getting better at making things grow healthier and I've learned. Then I started learning how to use like simple things that you can spray. Cold brew coffee is one of the excellent. Again, I'm spraying the biology of the coffee, right? You know what I mean? It's like, because the more you look at this biology, hey, you can't get away from soap. Is all biology, right? The coffee, cold brew coffee, is about you spraying the biology of the coffee plant, right? You know what I mean? So it's like, so it's all about biology, and I'm really, hey, it's all about biology. That's what this show is about. So I'm learning how to tell people it's all about the biology, the ants. So you want to control the ants. Okay, that means what? That means you got to control get a hold of this biology thing. You have to stop killing the biology. So it goes back to okay, stop using chemicals. Okay, take it a little step back more. What's in your city water? You can't ignore that. You'd be surprised how many of my customers do not have a filter system, refuse to get one, no matter how many times I tell them, and they say, why is this not working? And it's like, as soon as I open my mouth, it's like, they go like this, and yeah. Your house is on fire. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. There's a meteorite coming and crashing. Yeah. It's like they have this blank look. No offense. If you're a customer of mine, no offense. and it's getting worse. As I get older, I feel like you guys are not serious. You're not serious, because if you keep complaining about your hand in the fire, take your hand out of the fire. And if you want to control ants. You know what happens if you get? I have a CT Grower says I have a glass bottle of water is best.
Well, the original question was from Serena. She was talking about the plastic bottles and how much, microplastics we're getting from the plastic, and she wanted to know what to use, and it's glass, because then you don't have those plastic pieces in there.
Yeah.
Its thing is most companies, it's more expensive to use glass, and that's why they don't use it anymore. And or there's other reasons too, but it's like getting canned food. It's an aluminum can with a chemical coating inside, instead of, we used to buy everything in glass, pint jars. You didn't have those problems. It's glass is always going to be better, because you're not going to get any microplastics out of it.
The toxins have gotten so prolific that it's like it's very, very difficult to even survive like this, because once it starts to affect, a carbon filter system is good, excellent. I have a three different stage filtration system to help get rid of the city water's toxins that they have in there. And I also, when I was young, I used to do pools for people, and I used to use the soil as a filtration system. Where plants growing, the water will go through the soil. But you'll find that I was just reading yesterday where it said, even certified organic products on the market are not really. You should do some research. You'll find that company, for example, I'm not going to give any names. Here's a big company. You name the brand, you're going to go, yeah, I know the brand. It's an organic company. They say certified organic, everything organic. But where they get their products from is other companies that are not certified organic. They take them and then they add them to their label, and so therefore you're getting toxins that you think you're not getting. And the toxins are not just in the food and what you drink, water. A lot of people drink the plastic water all the time. It sits in the sun. It's like you're making a plastic drink.
Yeah,
literally. But because it's very small amounts, because it doesn't kill you, it's allowed. It's the same thing with certain pet food. They're not controlled by the FDA. That means you can add whatever junk you want to do that to. And there's even more and more prevalent in a variety of other foods that we eat.
Yeah.
So it comes back down to the soil is being attacked all the time, but you have to do your share to help the soil, because you have to, if you can get a water filtration system for the property, big step. It's a big step. You stop that process of constantly sterilizing your soil, and when it dries, the chemical stays in the soil. It doesn't go away. It's there.
And then when it rains, it washes down into your lakes and rivers and oceans.
There you go. And then it spreads it out more, and the biology is just not there to combat it. So what you have to do is you have to do a couple of things. One of them is you have to assume everything is toxic. Pretty much, you have to say everything is toxic. So you have to get a filter system for your property. When you buy compost, don't buy it from the store. Buy it from somebody that makes it. And even then, you have to, because I remember a long time ago when I first started, I wasn't making compost. So I ran into this guy who was making compost. I said, "Cool, you're making compost. Mm-hmm. I'd like to buy some of your compost." Yeah, it's 100% organic and all that kind of stuff. But I did a little bit of research. I said, okay, you have these manures. Where do you get them? I get them from that guy over there. The horse manure, I get it from that guy over there, and I get it from that guy over there. So I go over and talk to that guy, and I said, "So Joe over here gets your horse manure, makes it to his compost. So I'm just going to ask you one or two questions. Okay, right. What are you doing for pest control? Are you spraying? What are you spraying? What are you injecting your horse with, whether it be hormones or whatever, right? And what are you spraying what are you doing for flies? What are you spraying the manure? Because a lot of people spray the manure to control the flies. And of course, this guy was spraying chemicals.
Yeah.
The other guy didn't ask him this. So not only was he spraying chemicals, but he also so the manure was full of that chemical. You can send it to the lab, it'll say that's the chemical that I sprayed with. You know what I mean? And you can even go a step further. You put that in make your compost out of it. If you don't make your compost properly, in other words, if it doesn't heat up enough, because it has to heat up enough, the biology heats it up and converts it, right? If it doesn't get hot enough, it won't control the disease. It's passing the disease on, and the chemicals are still there. You can actually do a test specific. One of the things about soil testing, you have to know what chemical to look for. So I did that with this guy. Did a lab test, and that's exactly what he was spraying. Still there. I used to get manure from the circus. Very bad. They spray all kinds of stuff. And I used to get manure from the zoo. Very bad. They spray all kinds of stuff. So when you get something that you think is compost, it's clean, you have to say, do a little research, because otherwise you're just spreading you're just using toxins in your soil, and you're increasing more and more toxins. You have to figure out a way where all the toxins is coming from, right? And that's just in your food too. If you buy, give you another example. So I have a customer. She likes being organic, but you can't buy organic stuff in the store. When you buy plants, they're not organic. Andy, have you ever grown the royal? What is this one? What does this say here? I missed it. There you go. Have you ever grown the royal catchfly plant? So, and seeds are in the refrigerator. Any idea what nutrients and moisture are like? I have no idea what you're talking about. Royal catchfly plant.
What pops into my head is a Venus flytrap.
That's what I thought too, but this is like a royal catchfly plant. Okay, we have our own AI. Hey, silly. Look up royal catchfly plant, please. Thank you. So it's so you have to expand your awareness about toxins. You have to realize. Okay, another example. This lady, I have customers around. They're in the process of learning, but they argue for. So they don't buy organic produce, right? It's too expensive. But we're getting lettuce, and we put that lettuce. We don't eat it all, so we're going to put that lettuce in our compost. Does that sound? What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that they're trying to do the right thing, but they don't understand. But Andy, like I know lots of people that go to the garden center and they'll get like 10 or 20 yards of compost, so huge mounds. Would it be a good idea, like when they bring it home, to set it up where it actually they can add, different rock dusts, etc., into it, and give it another 30 days? Would that be a way to beat the system on this?
So when I was making my compost, I came up with this idea of how to increase my production. So I would buy soil from one place, another soil from another place. And of course, I used to have it tested before I would put it in my thing. So I decided, to run it through my process one more time. So I would get the soil, whether different types, put them together, different layers, let it cook up. And it was already ground up really nice, 30, 60 days, bada bing, bada boom. And then I would test it, and it would be very, very, it would still be there, but a tiny, small amount. It'd be impossible to totally get rid of it. But it was no longer in a hazardous state, no longer hurting the worms. If the worms loved it, it's fine with me, right? And if the biology was doing fine. And then the biology can clean up more, because that's the process that's going on over here, is teaching people how you clean up your soil and without dumping more chemicals in it to clean up the soil, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're dumping chemicals to clean up the soil, which is not the process of cleaning up the soil. You need to bring more biology. You need to bring, for example, latent compost is the best on the market now. So you bring that to you inoculate your soil with that as much as you can. Then you protect it by mulching it, and then you also have to key into the environment that the biology lives in. And this one lady got her soil, it has a 7.4 pH.
Yeah.
pH
That's pretty harsh.
That is not good. Okay, and that is basically why you have your soil is toxic. That's just so this is all toxic. That's the pH. The biology is not there, and that's the pH. That's what happens when you have toxins. It's a salt. It's a salt that builds up. Right? Yeah. And in order to clean that up, you're going to have to slowly. So I was telling this lady, okay, so we're going to do some composting. We'll turn it over with some mulch, an acid mulch, to help acify the soil a little bit, because I'm using this really cool potting soil that has a sphagnum moss in it, that has feather meal in it, or earthworm castings in it, aged redwood. So it's naturally it's an acid pH. It would be like 6 to 8, 6, 7, something in there, right? You add that to your compost. Naturally, it's a slightly alkaline pH because of the manure and stuff. It usually ends up being 7.1, 7.2. When you start. So if you was to blend the two together, you're going to end up with a 6.8 pH level. So what I would do is I grind it all together, blend them all together, cook them again, and then use it. So when you go to any of these places that sell soil, what the first thing you do is, let me see your lab test. If they don't have a lab test, then you know there's something wrong. When the city of LA, they started doing this free compost, right?
Right, yeah.
Free compost. Come and get your free compost. And they would, in the beginning, it was called biosolids. No, wait, it was actually called sewer sludge. And nobody wanted to buy it. So they changed the name to biosolids. It's biosolid. It's clean. And if you and they stopped offering free lab tests, because they would say, here's a lab report. But if you look at the lab report, you're going to go, well, what is this stuff? What are these things that I can't pronounce?
Why are there all these chemicals, compounds in here that are told that, if I eat them, they're going to kill me? Why am I putting that on my soil?
Yeah, and you'll be surprised at what ends up in there. I was reading a study recently that said the virus was being found when you had the time where the people were getting the virus, were getting sick, and they would go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
the poop had the virus in, and the virus was ending up in the sewer system, which then you had this virus actually found in the manure, and it's the same thing with drugs. People who take medicine, that would end up in the composting process. And I think too, the city. I never went to a city with that. So what their composting process is. but I have a feeling that they weren't achieving the temperature enough for a long enough period to actually clean it out. What they do is they filter it out. They get rid of paper, they get rid of glass and rocks and stuff like that. You know, it looks like a giant pool. It actually concentrates everything.
Yeah,
that's what it does. And so, but what's important is to be able to understand that here you have a city. Let's say you have a city, and the city has no buildings in it. So there's no way you're going to get population to move in to put the building in it further. You also have to give them the ability to do whatever it is they need to do, because it's like an army of different people doing all kinds of different things. And you have to have the tools and everything to do it. And that's the soil structure. The soil structure is dead. It's not functioning when the biology is not there. You look at it, and I was looking at this hard, and it wasn't just clay, because she had obviously dumped a lot of soil in there, and it was really looking black, but it was not alive. It looked a little more like charcoal, but it wasn't even that. If it was charcoal, that would be one thing. See, biochar, that would be one thing, but it was more of a gooey thing that just what is it called when it doesn't have oxygen?
Anaerobic.
Right, and that's not very good for the soil biology. No, not good at all. And so, what you have to what I'm trying to teach this lady here, and I have to basically, she wants to be involved in everything, and she I think she's at that place where she'll learn, as long as she realizes she doesn't know anything. You know that here's the process. So she has gone through lots of arborists who say use this chemical. Then she would go look online and talk to companies that are organic, and well, you need to buy this product or that product. None of them are which are alive. Okay, none of them are like. Yeah. Not one person said, okay, make the best compost tea and use that, right? So that's a big difference, which is what I do. I come along and I say, okay, forget all that stuff. We have to increase the biology and at the same time deal with the problem. So I have to teach her that yes, she was on the right track of making compost, but she was not. No way she can make enough compost to supply to the whole property. So the parts of the property are not getting anything that they need to function with, and it shows, because she can tell me that plant's had disease, this is that disease. I lost a tree there, I lost that one, I lost this one. This was going on. All those things are symptoms of trace mineral deficiency, nutritional deficiency, right? And they're not getting the food they need to function properly. And on top of that, physically they're in trouble because their root systems are not working. The roots are there, but they don't have the root hairs on the roots to be able to absorb. And there's nobody there to give them anything anyway, right? You know what I'm saying? So the whole process is sort of going downhill. And so when I started doing this, I learned that I don't worry too much about controlling the ants. What I do is I concentrate on bringing the biology and giving them a foundation that they can grow and multiply and survive. Once they start doing that, the biology itself will control the ants. So when what I learned to do is I learned to do foliar spraying. I learned to spray the biology, not only in the soil, because you're bringing the biology back to the soil more and more, but they die, but you constantly have to keep feeding them. And it's a one thing to be buying compost all the time and putting it, but it's another thing to make a liquid that you spray. A lot easier to do the liquid thing, as long as you have some basic that the biology can work from. That's why I'm telling this lady, you need to buy a truckload of soil, clean soil. You have to find from them a lab report, because she says they add urea to it, right? It's like, you're kidding me, right? Mm-hmm. Urea, which is like 6400. You know, it's like high nitrogen. Yeah, it makes everything grow really well, but it's not what you want. It causes more stress, and it's just they go up like this and they shoot right back down again because they're all screwed up, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's no organic material in her soil. Like if you did a test on that, she probably has, almost zero organic material, which is exactly what the biology needs to break down and live in. That's that, that city, right? And she doesn't have it. But Andy, Lily has a question for you, buddy. So Andy, you fed the ants honey water. how did you direct them away from the house? Did you feed them away from the house and
I
move them a
I think she's
different
an
area?
AI. I think she's an AI. I think it's pretty cool.
She's very
So,
intelligent. Yes, I'll agree with that. Yes,
so,
yes.
so yeah. So what I did was I had to redirect the ants. So the ants were coming into the house because they know there's food and water there, right? So I had to tell them, okay, I'm gonna put food and water over here for you. That's why I call them ant cafes. And so the way the process worked for me, what I've learned is okay. So I'm going to put them right around the outside of the house. First, I'm going to find how they're coming in, because that's one thing you do. You say, well, this is how the ants are getting into your house. So you have to say, okay, I'm going to spray some natural soap. Vinegar works really well. Lots of different things you can spray to get their attention, and they leave. So if
Right.
you do how they come in, once they left, you plug up the hole. What I would do is I get a caulking gun and add boric acid to it, blend it together, and that's what I use to caulk with. And so, and then when the ants would come back, because they were spraying in there, the ants would come back and find the hole. We can't get in there, but they go, oh, there's food over here, so that they would go in and eat that. So the first few months that we're eating, you give it to them to eat it, give it to them to eat it, no poison, nothing. And then you move it away from the house. So the next months you make it a little further and further. Eventually, they were out the borders of the property rather than around the house. And and the problem is that I've learned you can feed the ants, but you have 1 trillion ants, and you're not solving the problem of why you have the ants on your property running amok in the first
Now,
place. So
I have one quick question, Andy. Were they actually moving the ant hill over to where the food source
no,
was?
the anthill could be miles away. It could be on another property. It could be any other place. The
Okay,
ants
okay.
travel for miles and miles and miles. If you have an ant hill on your property, then you know that the problem with the soil is really bad, because it takes the ants cannot survive in underground if their biology is there to deter them, right? So that means that the right biology is no longer there, the right biology for them, because they have their own biology that they produce, right? The ants do. So the ants can travel for miles and miles. A lot of times I would follow the ants across the street, follow them down the road, and there'd be like in a field of big giant ant mounds all over the place. And they would just control literally the city. Like I said, the ant colonies could be miles and miles and miles about one living under control of one creature, right? One thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
I would move them out to the border of the property, and during that process, I would make an agreement with. First of all, I'll be spraying. The spraying will be the biology. So I will spray the
Yeah.
biology on the plants, all living things. It's also good for car washes, window washing. Biology works for a lot of stuff. You'd be surprised how. But you basically feed anything is alive, and you also start spraying the soil, spraying the biology. I realize that when I spray biology onto the soil, I can come back the next day and maybe find one or two microbes going, well, I don't know what happened. You dumped our family here, and everybody died, and it's like I'm here by myself. And so they may find a place, because sometimes there are pockets of living organisms, pockets of the right thing that they can do. But I learned to create that pocket. That's why I was actually talking to this lady today, saying, okay, so I basically what I call them tree vents, clay drain pipes, and the clay drain pipes are about that round and maybe that long. You actually buy them in different lengths, and clay drain pipes is paramagnetic, so that also helps too. It helps with the magnetism of the soil, because one of the things that trace minerals do is that they relate to the energy, the sun, the plasma, all the stuff that's going through the earth. We absorb it. The biology absorbs and uses that. That's what trace minerals use, and it allows them to be grounded. When you're grounded, all the energy flows, and the trace mineral flows. So I learned to say, okay, these are the things you have to do to your soil. You have to bring a truckload of good soil. You have to bring a truckload of good mulch, and you have to bring a truckload of compost. You have to blend them all together. You can't just bring soil, because the soil does not have the biology that the compost has, and the mulch does not have the biology. The compost is the biology. basically.
Okay, I want to make a point here. Blend the compost and the soil. Put the mulch on top after it's all blended to protect what you put down.
That's right. In my case, for example, in this particular one customer I'm working with, the mulch that I'm buying is specifically to be blended in with the compost rather than throw the mulch on top. So I'll explain a little bit more. So the Layton's compost is very strong and very, very rich. You can't just use it straight. It'll burn everything up, right? What by burning means what it does is that it brings up the toxins up and everything gets burnt. It literally pulls up heavy metals, cadmium, mercury, lead, arsenic, those things pulls them up, right? And any nitrogen that's in the ground that's been binded up, it pulls it up. So, and you want to mellow the process down a little bit. So you also want the pH to be right. If you just dump compost on it, pH is going to be too high, especially if it's already 7.4. So I blend it together, and this is a really cool product that's sold as a potting soil, but it has aged forest products. It has it has in it earthworm castings, sphagnum and peat moss, feather meal, right? So these are all different types of biology that are really very good for the soil. The feather meal has a little high in the nitrogen, right? Provides a natural source of nitrogen. The earthworm castings is also acidic. It also provides a wide range of trace minerals. So in that, and also I add rock dust to it. 12 different types of rock dust to a certain amount of rock dust, a certain amount of little biochar to it as well. You have this blend, and one of the reasons why I use that instead of the mulch is that when you put it down, you turn it over, and once you water it, a little bit of that mulch stays on top. It forms an actual layer of the mulch. But what you have to do is you have to order a lot more of this mulch. In this case, I would tell the lady, buy the bags, because you can get, from Layton's, you have these different types of mulches. That's good too. So you can buy a truckload of this really nice, it's called aged forest, which is really nice. So you put it on top. You have to protect the biology from the damages that the soil is going to do, that the sun's going to do, because it gets really super hot. It'll kill it.
And wind. Don't forget the wind too.
It's going to damage them, so you have to protect it. I told the lady 1 foot of mulch you want covering the whole property. That will allow down in there the biology to survive. Even then, if you did nothing else, it may not work. It might work on its own because you no longer have the city water. You have this filtered water, right? And you have this environment that should survive. But my experience has been it takes a while for that to start working. So you have to feed the plants. They have to be foliar fed, so they're getting their nutrition, the trace minerals, and you want to pump more biology into this soil. The more biology there, the more it's going to survive, the faster it's going to recover. It's not in 3 months. I just finished telling the lady, you're lucky if your soil starts to recover in a year. You're lucky. Yeah. You've been doing this for 30 years, and you expect 3 months to be bada bing, bada boom, done? No. And even then, you're going to have to continue the process because the environment is constantly producing toxics in the air, whatever it is, or smoke, fog, all kinds of stuff, right? And that process has to be balanced out by constantly bringing biology. So you blend it all together, you put it in, and then what I do is the tree vents are really very cool because what I started to do is, okay, I want to get something down. So I have a device which basically is a deep root feeder. And I hook it up into my sprayer. It's a tool that you can stick. It's about maybe 4 feet.
Okay. Yeah.
Goes 4 feet into the ground point. And one of the things about it is the sprayer circulates air and oxygen, and the biology goes nuts and pumps it down deep down in there. And that will start to work. And I said, well, that's going to take like forever because you're injecting this biology down into this environment that doesn't hold air, that doesn't hold water. It's like they may survive for a little bit and they'll die because there's nothing there for them to work with. So I decided to come up with a way to colonize, have an area, like a little city ready for them to inhabit, right? Yeah. So I call them tree vents. And they're clay drain pipes. I like the clay to drain. I like the clay pipes as opposed to the plastic pipes. Again, the plastic is no bueno, right? No, that's not going to help your biology at all. But the mycelium. So one year I pulled a clay drain pipe out. It was covered with mycelium. Mycelium inhabited the clay. Moved into the clay, and the whole area around it was slowly growing. The mycelium was growing out. And I tell people, this is where you place it. So you look at the tree from above, you have the 12 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, the 3 o'clock, and the 9 o'clock. And you basically put the tree vents halfway between the trunk and the drip line, right in there, where you're right amongst. And I learned how to determine when you look up, you can see that root, that branch is telling me that root, that's above the root that corresponds to that branch. So, so I learned how to put it right in amongst the roots. And so this nutrient, and in there, I would throw compost in there. It depends. For example, when I'm dealing with a tree, for example, that is getting attacked by a bug, right? So one of the things I wanted to do is to give them some kind of systemic that they will absorb into their body that will combat the bug that's attacking them immediately, right? Because sometimes you can spray the outside, but you can't get it into the plant, right? And so I learned. So when I would make, when I would make my compost, I would add tobacco. So I would buy a tobacco leaf from the Native American Indians. It's organic tobacco leaf. Chop it up, blend it with my compost, put it in there, and put a drip system in it. The tobacco is a systemic. It's absorbed by the trees.
Right.
In the process of creating, because the biology is not, the nicotine is not going to hurt the biology at all. As a matter of fact, it helps break it up and it helps pass it on to the trees. Because one of the things the biology does is it encourages the root systems to grow, encourages the hairs on the root system to grow. That's where the certain type of biology lives on there. They would take that and pass it on to the tree, and they would absorb that process. They would absorb that. And so I learned that there are different things. Two things that I would use that throughout the year have been the most amazing systemic natural products that I've ever used. You know what I'm talking about. Which are the two things?
Coffee, garlic.
I said two. You don't need more than that.
Okay, I'll stop there then.
So one of the things I learned is that, so you have diseases, right, and pests. So all the diseases and pests are geared to a certain condition, certain things. Right?
Yeah.
Part of it is they can either smell or see. That's important for them, right? If the conditions are right, their channel turns on. Oh, look, this is a disease that I'm going to go after. So garlic. So I started planting garlic bulbs around the base of a tree. There was an apple tree and a citrus tree, and you could taste it in the apple.
Right.
You could taste it. I also did it with roses. I plant some garlic, and you smell the rose, you go, "Whoo, garlic!" Right? But you may not want to do that if you wanted it to smell. But the point would be that they're a natural systemic. And so in my tree vents, it depends on the bug. Sometimes I would blend the two together. I learned you do not want to spray garlic. Remember I talked about that. You do not want to spray garlic and cold brew coffee. It's the strangest smell you've ever had. Oh, that's good. No, it's bad. Good. No, it's bad. The garlic makes you, and definitely I was getting sick just thinking about it. But that works because, when you put that in the tree vent and the biology is there, the plant absorbs that. It absorbs the garlic and absorbs the tobacco, and it kills the bug. Any bugs that burrowing into the plant, kills them on contact. It controls other diseases. And so as the tree vents start to work more and more, and that's why it's important to have filtered water, because if you've had city water in there, it's just going to kill the biology. It's not going to work. So, as a matter of fact, a lot of times when I go to people's homes, I have a filtration system that's hooked into my sprayer. So when they're getting the water, I say, what's the point of biology? If I'm killing them with your water, I have a filter.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of customers now that's so wonderful. I could drink that water because it's filtered out.
Yeah.
I was talking to another lady the other day. She says, "Oh, I filtered out my shower and I filtered out my sink so I can drink." But who wants to filter out the garden water or the lawn? That's ridiculous, she said. And I go, remember we talked about it? What would happen if you started drinking the city water, right? That's exactly what happens if the soil starts drinking the city water. Thumbs up, gardening enthusiast. It keeps us encouraged to bring you this podcast. Thanks for she's an AI. I think she is an AI. I think you got one of the early versions of the AI. She's a silly version.
Yeah, the silly version. I like that, Andy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to use that on her. The silly version of AI.
Yeah,
Yes.
she is. She is. She's wonderful. So it comes down to you learn some again. You have to understand short-term solutions, long-term solutions. Okay.
Yes.
Short-term solutions. What can I do now to control this pest or disease? Right.
And that's foliar feeding.
Immediately, what you can do. Right. So the foliar feeding is it, and you spray the biology. You want to get the best biology you can get your hands on. For me, I like fish emulsion. Okay. I love fish emulsion without the urea. I mean, that stuff is so biologically rich, but you can't really spray it. You can't put it in your sprayer. That sprayer will smell like fish for years. I mean, literally,
they kick you out of California, man.
The cats were just covering, humping the truck. They were just getting in there, going, "Oh, this is nice." And then when I'm spraying, because in my early use, I would spray fish emulsion. People come on and go, "Woo, wait, what is going on here? Oh my God!" I said, "Okay, I guess I can't spray fish emulsion, even though I still use it because I make a liquid out of it and pour it around the base of plants and stuff like that. I use Bukashi. There you go. I don't know why I said Kobashi. That's a movie I was watching. That's a movie.
Okay.
And that's a highly biological product as well. There are lots of things. That's like effective microorganisms, is wonderful. Nowadays, there's more and more on the market that you can get. But again, you have to realize if it's packaged, if it's sealed, it's not alive.
Yeah.
So it's okay to get the mineral source like C90. It's okay to get all these other things to provide you different. They're in a state of suspended state of animation that you can activate them, but you need to have a source of living biology right off the bat.
Yeah. Well, I tell people, you can have all the rock dust you want. If you don't have the biology to break those molecules apart, it's absolutely useless.
Absolutely useless, right? So you have to. And as I'm trying to teach this lady here, she's not very good at making compost. One of the things I'm going to suggest to her is, okay, get a worm farm going. It's very easy to do. One worm farm, the one I'm doing, can take care of her whole property, and she can't do the spraying thing, even though she could probably get herself a little sprayer and start spraying her property, because that's what you have to do in reality. I mean, my sprayer goes up the trees, and it's a special sprayer because it allows you to spray compost tea. Most sprayers use a mental pump that kills everything. This is a diaphragm that goes back and forth, and it doesn't. And the opening of my gun and the hose and everything is a certain opening that allows the biology to go through. But so people have to become very focused on this biology thing, because if you don't do that, you will not succeed.
Yeah, well, it's biology, and then it's the organic material that the biology needs to live on, and then it's the moisture, which is your mulch layer to hold. Yeah, you need the biology and the components, the building blocks of life, which is, sand, silt, clay, and organic material.
And that's what they have to key into it. They have to also understand it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time to heal. They don't understand that that's what you're doing. You're encouraging the healing process of the soil. And in turn, the trees and the plants are all healing too. And then
the bugs go away. There's no ants left either.
No, the ants are still there. The ants are like mellow down. They're happy. They got plenty of work to do, because their job is to clean up anything that gets sick. So things start to decay. That starts to happen. That's perfectly fine. That's their job. But when more and more things start to decay, they get more and more ants to accommodate that, to deal with that. See, the ants don't go away. The ants are there, because if you get rid of all the ants on your property, you're missing the one biological structure that's needed in the soil. You need the ants. They're part of it. They're like every bug on the planet are needed. They're all part of the system. See what I mean? You get rid of them. When I used to go to places, if I didn't see a single ant, I would go, "There's something wrong here. What is wrong with this?" My instinct says, don't even step on the property. Don't even come anywhere near because it's so toxic. You have to have a mass radiation gear, the whole setup. Yeah. Seriously. I mean, I went to one place, I knocked on the door, they open up, they said, "Andy, come, we have an ant problem." And they open up, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you are. Nice to see you. Oh, my God." He can barely walk. He's barely alive. And it's like, "We have an ant problem." I said, "Dude, you got more than an ant problem."
Yeah. But Andy, on that note, we got one last question or statement from Serena. One more joke. What does soil scientists read to get their news? The Corn Post. Okay. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. We're at our hour, so we're gonna jump off.
How do I do?
What's that?
How did I do?
Yeah, well, you did fantastic, Andy. You've been chasing ants for the last 50 plus years. You've been playing with ants, dancing with ants.
Dances with ants.
Yep.
Don't
guys,
don't kill the ants. They're important. They're very important. Don't kill them.
All life is important.
Yeah.
And all biology is where it starts because that's what builds the cells that make up the body of the ant, that make up our bodies. It all starts with the biology. But guys, tomorrow the ladies are back on Chiropractic is Sexy. And then, of course, Dr. Paula Ruffin's going to be doing her Sunday show. And then Monday, we have a 3-person panel. We have Travis, we have Tom Landry, and we have Josh from Yellow Skunk Farms coming on with Leighton to talk more on the horizontal soil system in that atmosphere, that wonderful way to grow that more people are starting to do. So, guys, peace out, and we will see you. Well, I won't see you, but the show will be back next week for Andy Lopez and myself, bringing you more.
Bye.